Okay, great. We are live. Thank you again for those of you who were already on when I thanked you joining. If you are new and just joined, thank you again, or thank you for the first time for joining. And we're excited to have you. We're excited to kind of share some of the things that we're working on with you guys, and just kind of go over some of the things we found and some of the things that we're thinking about, doing and implementing a little bit. We started out the year kind of trying to figure out how we kind of get things to a more stable place and a more reliable place. And, we've done a lot of work to do that. And we've done a lot of behind the scenes work as well as, public work to really improve the back end architecture and improve things the best we can. And we're still working on that. And, we know we have a lot of work to do. But we're starting to kind of shift focus a little bit from what are the things that we can do kind of architecturally. We're still focused on the architecture as a whole, but what are some of the things that we can do once we get the architecture kind of up and running and reliable? What are some of the things that we can do to protect that architecture once we build it out? And that's what some people internally at SmartThings are working on. So we have Aaron on the call, we have Vlad on the call, and myself, and we're really starting to work on. And Patrick, I just saw your notification, and it goes back to what Robert Parker talked about when he first started, about kind of getting us to a place where we're stable and then putting up some quote unquote guardrails to kind of think about ways that we could, once it's stable, once it's to a place where we're kind of happy about where we are as a platform, how do we protect that kind of investment by putting up guardrails and kind of protecting the way that users interact with the platform itself, the way users interact with each other on the platform, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what the main topic of today is talking about some of those things that we're doing to research that. We don't have the answers. We don't know what the guardrails should be. So that's what we're doing now. And we kind of just want to share some of the things that we found, some of the things we're doing to kind of look into that and really, make efforts on protecting the platform itself as a whole. And then finally, we will talk a little bit about the Atom plugin. So we are going to do a limited release of it. We'll talk more in depth about that after Aaron has his kind of go here, and we'll tell you how to submit your kind of interest in getting into the Atom plugin beta, and how we can get that going, and really excited to share that with you guys. And we will go ahead and get started. So Aaron, you're up, take it away. And Vlad, you're on here. So if you want to interject at any time and add some of your thoughts, please do. We welcome that. And again, any other SmartThings employee, Jim, Tom, if you want to add, Joyce, if you want to add anything, please do, add to the conversation. So Aaron, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Can you see my PDF here showing up?
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Aaron Swift. I run the support operations, mostly focusing on end users and what customers are experiencing. But as part of this, the cloud team, Vlad, Luke, and a bunch of other much smarter people than I am, started digging into what are the things on the platform that are affecting the end users, what are end users doing that are affecting the platform, and how could we reach out to them and the developers building the smart apps and device handlers to do this all smarter and keep the platform just a little bit more healthy all around. So this is the beginning phases of what we've been doing, just kind of keeping everyone up to date. We are not making any commitments, promises, changes to the platform around this at the moment. This is all about information gathering and communication for right now. So can you see these slide changes coming through?
Yeah, sure can.
Perfect. So we'll focus on the current guardrails, the current rate limiters and thresholds that we have in place, what we are doing to keep the platform up and running, the communications that we're sending out,
Hey,
and
Aaron,
then what are, yes.
real quick, is there a way to go full screen on this?
There might be a way to go full screen on this. Is that full screen?
That's much better. Yep.
Brilliant. So as long as I don't move my mouse. Can I hide that? It may not let me hide that last little bit. Sorry, hold on. See what it does. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Okay. I can't use both my screens at the same time while I'm full screen. I apologize.
Okay.
Having what the what we are communicating to the developers. Some of you might have started seeing and hearing from me both over the community and via email, and how we're using all this information to build some changes. So our current thresholds on the platform are pretty minimal. A single smart app cannot execute more than 250 times per minute, and a smart app or device handler cannot run for more than 20 seconds. Right now, when you hit one of these thresholds, as we all know, the smart app or device handler is killed without notification. For end users, what they see when this happens is my routine didn't run, my automation didn't run, and that's really not the experience we want to have. A lot of these customers are reaching out to us, but we want to make that experience better for both the customers and the developers all around.
Yep.
So with that, some background on this, we do need to do a better job on our end of bifurcating between the end user and developer experience. There are a lot of customers out there who say, look, there's a cool integration. It's getting a lot of traction on the community. We're a big fan of this kind of stuff. But they're copying the code right from GitHub, pasting it into their instance of the IDE, and maybe never even updating it again, despite all the hard work the developers are putting in on maintaining and bug fixing and whatnot. So there are a couple things that we're doing, or a lot of things that we're doing on the back end, some changes being made on the front end that should make this experience much better for both developers and end users. In the meantime, we are doing this research now and just begging for some patience while we wrap up the current sprint.
And I think to add to this slide, Aaron, I just want to say that, one of the things that we really want to focus on is letting people know what's happening with these smart apps. So not only are we looking into what data we need to provide, right? Like what is the data that's important, I should say, but we also want to be able to surface that data. So right now we're in a phase of what's the data that's important to our platform to know and to make it more stable, right? So maybe that information is number of errors per hour. Maybe that's one of the most important statistics. Then we're going to figure out, okay, now that we know we care about this data point, how do we surface it to you? So right now, we are definitely in a place of what's the data that we need, and then once we have that data and we know what data we want to track, we can then move forward with, okay, now let's track it and surface it. So this is kind of a two-prong approach here, and so just to kind of keep that in mind, that right now we are totally in the information gathering phase. So just wanted to put that out there. We keep losing that full screen.
Okay.
Darn
yeah,
it.
I keep doing that every time I click on the mouse. As Tim mentioned, we have some handsome and brilliant cloud engineers. I'm looking at you, Vlad. working on monitoring the platform, figuring out where things are failing, looking at what are 99.999% of users doing with the platform, and then finding where things are crossing out of the boundaries of comfort zones and flagging them as reference points for the future. So we don't quite know what these are on a regular basis. We're still at the very, very beginning phases where we find a lot of individual things that are occurring on the platform, and I'll share those here in a moment. And then what happens is after the cloud team identifies one of these issues, me and my team are reaching out to the customers, trying to give them some guidance on what they can do to change what's going on their accounts, and also talk to the developers themselves about what they can do to improve the smart app or device handler that's running and causing these exceptions. So the most important thing is we are not trying to limit anyone's individual use. We want everyone to be as addicted as they can to the platform and the service and connecting as many devices as they can. But we want to make sure those devices are getting connected and running intelligently. So I have a couple examples here I also wanted to share. Not everything is due to bad code. Most of the code we actually see on the community is really good. A lot of it is, or a chunk of it is due to customers doing things with the code that we weren't ever expecting them to do. So for a couple examples here, I want to walk through them, share some of the experiences that we've discovered, and talk about these things about how the developers can help prevent them. So a great example is there's a couple really good camera device handlers and smart apps out on the community. A customer took one of those camera integrations and took a separate smart app and are running them against each other. And the camera ended up taking 1 or 2 images every second on a continuous cycle for, by the time we found it, hours or days on end, just consuming significant portions of data that we never expected. Another one is data logging. Smart apps, a lot of people are exporting to Initial State, GrowStream, Grafana. Those types of integrations are really cool. Seeing the dashboards about how your data is being used is pretty awesome. One of them was pulling data in real time instead of batching it. And basically between a couple customers was spitting out 10,000 or more errors an hour at a continuous rate for a few days on end. A common one, we're a big fan of Core and Rule Machine and these rule builders out there. One of them, or a few of them, have the ability to make infinite loops. One of them was a customer just set up infinite loops and was firing automations as fast as it could go over and over again, just consuming platform time. And then the last kind of major one I've seen customers doing, just weird edge case examples, is using the API. So like every time, every second, they're doing a poll of a handful of devices around and trying to just update states for that every second. Not sure what the thinking was, like for example, a Wi-Fi outlet trying to pull the state of that. Doing that real-time data poll is also causing the platforms to slow down, not just for that user, but it's starting to affect other customers as well as we reach capacity. So a couple things that would be super helpful and that Vlad and his team and me and my team are looking at when we talk to customers about these issues with the community smart apps. So number one thing that you could do to help us is just add a date and or version number in the header of your code. When we open up a smart app and we know it's one that's caused, or we flagged there's one that's causing a problem, we'll check GitHub or the community or whatever. And that's usually the number one solution, is just ask the customer to update to the newest version of whatever smart app that is. Most of the times the developers are aware of these bugs and can go in and already went in and fixed them, but the customer didn't know, that end user didn't know that they needed to do that copy and paste. Errors, we see a lot of errors coming through the platform with certain smart apps. We know we need to do a better job with error logging and error tracking and trending. But in general, there are definitely smart apps we see where you just have a stream of errors coming through the live logging, and just keeping an eye out for those. And even an error a minute can start causing us headaches, let alone like a continuous stream of them. I mentioned before the real-time data exports are really cool. If you could just batch the data up before you send it out, instead of having a continuous stream of 50 devices always sending their states, if there's really not a need for the real-time feedback from the device, then let's push all of that data into a batch and send it out once an hour, once a day, however much we can batch it up into to prevent these constant web pings. And then the last one for stuff like the camera I mentioned earlier, for the rule builders, adding something like an internal rate limiter would be super helpful to us to make sure these cameras and automations just don't start ending up on infinite loops.
Super quick. I just want to touch on some things Patrick was talking about in the chat here real quick. Yes, for errors, Patrick, these are like actual exceptions, null pointers, out of bound exceptions, things like that. So these are real like Java level, JVM level exceptions. And then for the batch data exports and things like that, yeah, obviously if it doesn't support, if wherever you're sending the data doesn't support batching, then obviously like there's nothing we can do about that. But if it does, and most of them I think do in a lot of cases, whether it's going to like Firebase or, that doesn't have to necessarily be a logger, but, unless you actually need the real-time data, I think the crux of what we're trying to get at here is, unless you actually need real-time data, if you're just looking for like historical data, something along those lines, then, be a little more judicious about how you kind of utilize the platform in that way. One of these, just to kind of give you an example of what we saw, is one of these loggers. It was logging basically every event at the location level. And when it was doing that, basically every hour, it was taking up 7 hours of real-time CPU clock time. So, it's a pretty intense smart app if you're taking up 7 hours of clock time per real world hour. So things like that are things that we're looking at. And again, we're definitely in the kind of like, what do we care about phase? And so we're not telling, these are some things that we've noticed, some things that we definitely want to have developers have a lookout for. And this is kind of a moving target at the moment. So we do plan to keep you guys apprised to the things that we're finding during this kind of expedition, and really keep you guys involved and want you to know what we're doing, so that we can come to a, we're one, not making it harder for you to develop, and two, not making it harder for the user experience to be a positive one. So it's kind of a push and play here at the moment, and we're definitely trying to do it in a way that doesn't just like, we're not just like, hey, you can't do, single HTTP requests anymore because we don't like you, or what, we don't want to do that kind of stuff. So we're trying our best to be judicious here as well in how we approach this, so that we don't create bad experiences.
So another just pile on there, just looking at the chat stream going by. There is a difference between subscribing to every location level event and subscribing to just a device's change. And there's a exponential difference of the demand on the platform. So then looking at the guardrails that Robert Parker talked about, I want to emphasize right now, very important, a timeline is to be determined. We are looking at what are the farthest extremes of demand on the platform, the people who are the 80-20 rule, 20% of people who are taking 80% of the platform time, or even a higher ratio than that. And then working with those people individually and manually right now. So those are the people we're contacting, using the information we're collecting during this to develop some longer term edge case guardrails. And then as we learn what is and is not acceptable to the platform and healthy for the platform and for developers and people who want to build integrations, we will start modulating and adjusting those. Any changes we make will be communicated well in advance. We're really working right now on just identifying what these extremes are. And over the long term, what we want to be doing is having features where developers and or end users can get notifications when their apps are going haywire, automated warnings when they're getting close, exponential rate limiters where maybe if you hit it once, you just get a warning, you hit it again, you get rate limited for X number of minutes, you hit it again, you get rate limited for longer. So we are looking at those types of features. Nothing, to emphasize enough, nothing is being changed overnight. Everything will be fully communicated before it happens.
Yeah. And just to follow up on some questions in chat here. No, so published smart apps and community coded smart apps will live under the same laws, so to speak. There won't be any, we actually actively try not to, and I don't know of one yet, but people have asked for us, partnerships and, different partners have came to us and asked, hey, we're not sure if we can do this under the 20-second execution limit. And our response to this day has been, well, you have to. So, everyone will live under the same laws. So there won't be any special community apps are going to be under some really hard penalties. But if you're published, we'll let you do whatever you want. That's not the goal of this at all.
So just some questions to wrap it up. Do we have a hard timeline? The answer is no. If you find a bug or if you think there's something going on that's affecting the runtime or executions of your smart app, your device handler, absolutely let us know. If you email support, flag it. If you put something on community, mention me, mention Tim, mention anyone else who you know on staff. And then, we really want to work with the community developers. We want to be transparent about this. And so any changes we make will be communicated before they go in place.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Just want to answer some questions here again. Restrictions on Patrick, you said restrictions don't apply to Smart Home Monitor and built-in apps. I'm not aware that they don't, especially routines. Back when we were having a lot of those routine problems, those were actually execution timeouts. And so we did a lot of work to the routines to make them execute more efficiently. We didn't remove the timeout, and we basically changed base code to make it execute more efficiently so that it didn't reach the timeout. So yeah, I'm not aware of any app that does not fall under that execution rule. If there was one, it might be Smart Home Monitor, but again, I've never heard of that. So, but I'll definitely check because I don't want to be saying that it's not. And honestly, I don't, I'm not 100% sure, but I will check. But last I know, there isn't an app that doesn't fall under the current rate limiting policies. So
Right, and I mean, the other thing is if SHM was executing at a rate of 250 times a minute, that would be a problem that we'd want to fix as opposed to increase the rate limiting
Right.
cap on that. It's not built to execute in that type of speed, and neither are the majority of these smart apps that we're even talking about here.
Right. Awesome. That was Vlad, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Vlad. Really appreciate you adding that. So thank you so much. Terry, I think you literally just joined. Thanks for joining. Good to have you. I saw you pop up there. So good to have you, Terry. We appreciate you joining. If you missed some of this, if you truly did just join, we'll definitely put it up on the website for your consumption, and we'll upload this, within the next 24 or 48 hours, something like that. And smart home monitor open source. So we've had the internal conversation. We'll just go ahead and answer that. We've had the internal conversation about smart home monitor a couple times. There are some concerns we have about open sourcing it in its current state, because there are some kind of protected things in there that we don't necessarily want public at the moment. And, that's just the honest fact of the whole thing is we do sometimes have to protect some of our code, but we definitely want it to be public. That's again, it's a conversation that comes up maybe once every 2 or 3 months, and we revisit it. And, there is we definitely want to make it public, but again, at the moment we definitely can't. Oh yes, Benji, I definitely will. Let's just jump into the security issues on 2.2. So 2.2, just to kind of give you guys a little bit more information on what that is. Some of you may be familiar, actually probably all of you on the call are familiar with the fact that we use long-lived tokens for our authentication schemas, and that will no longer be the case in 2.2. So in 2.2, we'll have short-lived tokens that do expire in a relatively short period of time. So that really is the crux of the new quote unquote authentication scheme that we're doing. Obviously sometimes, we don't really share that stuff with, normal consumers because it probably would go over their head a little bit. But obviously, I know Terry's on the call. You're probably jumping up and down in your seat with us talking about short-lived tokens. So I know that's been a big thing for you. And jump. So we're pretty excited about it. So definitely upgrade. It's we'll see 2.2 before December 15th. It's coming out very soon, within the next couple days, as long as something catastrophic doesn't happen. So expect that to be coming. And will there be a token refresh routine? Are you talking about, that we're actually using refresh tokens now on the app, Patrick? Yeah, I mean, they are refresh tokens, but they're just short-lived tokens. So it is again, it's more secure. And I think it's like under an hour. I don't know exactly how short it is, Patrick, off the top of my head, but it's pretty darn short from what I've been told. So that is the 2.2. That's the 2.2 scoop. No, you won't have to log in every hour, Patrick. No, so Terry, no, this change won't come to OAuth Smart Apps right away, but that's the plan. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll definitely talk and make those changes available to you, and let you know about that before. We won't just spring it on you. That's one of those things that I've been pushing for. So we'll definitely make sure to let you guys know way in advance, so that you guys can, and we'll probably like deprecate the old tokens, but not invalidate them. So, even if you, they'll live in parity with each other for a little bit, so that you guys can smoothly transition over. So we definitely do want to make that transition very smooth for you. Any idea on current certification timescales? Cameron, if you are you on the community, Cameron? I think you are. Yeah, send me a private message. Excuse me, send me a private message. The reason I say that is right now, honestly, we don't really have anyone like dedicated to the certification stuff. We are doing them on a one-off, so definitely send me a message and we will take a look at your app or device type or whatever you have that wants to be certified. So send me a message. It's @Slagle on the community if you don't know, and we'll see what we can do. Cool. Thanks, Cameron. Cool. So that's really it. Other than, let's go ahead and share with you guys, and I will put this in the community as well. Yeah, in the morning's fine. Thanks, Cameron. So I will send this here. This is in the chat. If you click on that, it is a form. It quite literally only asks for your email address, and this is how we are going to communicate to you how to get the new Atom plugin beta. So just to kind of give you what the beta is, we're going to do, it's really just usability testing at the moment. So we're not doing we're working on making it look a little prettier, but at the moment it doesn't look very pretty. So please just keep that in mind as you do the beta testing. So we really are just looking at, does it work? Does it have the features that you think should be there? And if it does, do those features work, right? And if it doesn't have a feature that you think should be there, or something's a little wonky, we want to know about that. So it's purely usability testing. We want to really give you guys some time with it so that we can, when we release it widely, we can go ahead and make the best effort we can and use your feedback to make it a whole bunch better. It will be a limited beta, so we're not doing an NDA. We're not, doing any sort of like, you can't tell anyone about it. Feel free to talk about it. Feel free to kind of have some fun with it. But, we do want you guys to just kind of keep that to you. So, don't share it with anyone. We're just kind of doing the honor system here. So, we'll send that out in an email or when we invite you to install it. But, while you guys are having it, just kind of keep it between you, us, and the wall. And so, but yeah, no NDA or anything. So it's just a limited beta that we're only going to invite, only going to accept a few people into. We're thinking somewhere between, 20 or 30, maybe a little bit higher than that, and seeing what you guys think. So that's kind of the status on that. Definitely click on the form and fill it out. Give us your email address and we'll go ahead and send you within a week. That's our plan. So you probably won't hear from us right away, but beginning of next week, probably between Monday and Wednesday of next week, you'll hear with some instructions on how to install it, and we'll get that going, as well as feedback form and all the stuff that comes with a normal beta. The Dev Ambassador Program, that I know, Jody. I think are you talking about the kind of point system ambassador program? Influitive. Cool. Yeah. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I know Yeah, points were supposed to be worth something, and I'm not sure what the current status on that is. Honestly, I don't have a good answer for you on that. So let me reconvene with Jody, maybe offline, and figure out what that is. If Jody wants to pop in right now and give an answer, he's more than welcome to. If not, then we will. I'll reconvene with him offline, and we can kind of give a notice about that, what the status is, what's happening, things like that. So we'll get back to you. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that right now. And don't want to try and give one. So we'll get back to you. Anything else? So beta, keep in mind, the things we talked about with kind of these extraneous apps. Again, we kind of talked about edge cases a lot, and that's what we're kind of focusing on right now, because it's good data to see what the actual crux of the issues are, right? So it's not about necessarily, again, we're totally in an information gathering phase right now to see what the things are that we care about, and what data can improve the platform. So that's what we're focused on right now. We will be open and honest with you guys about it, and we'll keep you guys apprised to our findings. Maybe we'll do an update every other developer call or something, depending on what data we find. And we will let you guys know kind of what we're looking at as far as putting these quote unquote guardrails in place and making that, a really, really kind of inclusive experience for you guys, so you guys can give us some feedback on that, and make sure that you guys are involved in that. So Patrick, you basically are asking how are edge cases the crux of the situation. Really what we're looking for is what are the people that are using the platform outside of the 99.99%, right? What are they doing that could potentially be bad for the platform? So it's more about how do we protect the platform without kind of going outside of this putting a layer over everyone and, degrading the experience for a large subset of users, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to get at. And so we definitely want to not kind of take the brunt of everything that's going on and limit that as a whole, but it's like, how do we protect the platform, but also not, degrade the experience at all. So that's kind of where we're at, and we will protect the platform. How does limiting select all devices protect the platform? That's not. I'm not really sure what that means, Terry. That's just at the moment. That's we're still kind of talking about that internally, about how we can do that without kind of making it this. It is a very good feature, right? Where you can say, "Hey, select all," right? But when you do that for every device, it can get tricky. Where like you said, we talked about this. When you have a select all devices button. It selects every device in your location, and that's great, and it's easy, and it's awesome. But what can happen is you select all devices, but that also selects locks. The user doesn't want locks selected, right? So we are working on. There's active work going on better allowing a user to select more devices easier, but we're just in the beginning stages of that. So. We definitely don't have a timeline or anything on that, or there's no more information to share on that, but there is active work going on it. Like as we speak, I talked to someone about it today. So
So I can jump in on here if you want, Tim.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that like these concerns are a little bit overblown, and so basically what we're talking about here is that if some smart app is running and it's subscribing to events on every device, and say that's like a power meter event, and it starts executing like 250 times a minute or whatever the rate is, it could be up to like 500 times a minute if we don't manually put in a rate limit in place. And say that event then gets sent via an HTTP call over to some third party, and that HTTP call ends up taking, I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, however long it takes. That will start backing up however many consumers can run on a single box. Yes, on one hand, it's a problem with the architecture, and that we should be able to handle that in a better way than just putting in a rate limit. But that also requires an engineering effort to put in service in place that can handle something like async HTTP for that to not be a problem. So when we talk about these edge cases, it's not really like something that you can do in core that is like, I guess I don't know how to explain it other than normal usage patterns. You're not going to run into these edge cases. Using core correctly, you're not going to run into this edge case. Having a device report 100,000 times in a minute, and then you send 100,000 HTTP calls, that's going to be when you run into these edge cases.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of exactly, you said it much more elegantly than I did, Vlad, so thank you so much. But yeah, that's kind of what we're getting at is what is outside of normal usage patterns, and how do we protect from that? And unfortunately, we have to look at the edge cases to find out what is not a normal usage pattern, because we definitely don't want to limit what's normal. So that's kind of where we're at. But it's useful. Yeah. So yeah, Terry, back to kind of the select all devices. It is being worked on, but at the moment, we are having real conversations about making the current one public. But unfortunately, that's an ongoing conversation that I don't want to promise anything to you. So we'll just see what the outcome is there. But it is an active conversation that we're having as far as can we make select all devices a public API.
Right, and I think that like Smart Tiles is a good example, right? You have a smart app that's handling quite a few devices at a single time. It's nowhere near it's magnitudes away from the usage that we're talking about, even with the current amount of users that are using it.
Right, exactly. That's, again, Patrick, that's another kind of thing that we're talking about is, can we just enable like a JavaScript implementation? So and the question is, what do we do? Do we do the actual implementation, or do we do the workaround? And that's kind of the conversation that we're having right now. And so I want one or the other, but at the moment we're trying to decide which one is the right one to do. So, and yeah, so I know which one I want. I'm not gonna give too many details. I don't want to make any promises or anything like that. But the conversation is happening, and we'll do our best to kind of let you guys know what the outcome of that is. Terry, you specifically. Cool, awesome. No, and enable all check. But then again, we don't pay a monthly fee. Yeah, I mean, we are kind of in between a rock and a hard place a little bit, Patrick, with that. Again, we're not trying to restrict the normal usage. We're just trying to go what's outside of that, and see what that is. And can we talk about data privacy for a bit? I'm not sure I'm the right person to have that conversation with you, honestly. But yeah, if that's something that you guys want to talk about for the next call, let me see who the right person is to have that conversation with you guys, and get them on the call. Because yeah, I definitely don't want to. I don't have. Why is there no way to data? Yeah, I again don't. I don't have those answers for you, Patrick. And it would be better for someone who's more familiar with what those practices are, to answer them for you. So let me do some digging and see if we can get someone on the call next month, maybe that can talk about that, or maybe we can do a blog post or something about what those practices are, and kind of explain them a little more. And so let me get back to you on that, and hopefully next call, or within the next little bit, we can kind of answer those questions for you, make you give you a little bit more transparency into what's going on behind the scenes, so to speak, as far as privacy goes. Cool. So we'll do that. Anyone else have any other questions? Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We really appreciate your time. Again, we will, in the next 24 to 48 hours or so, we'll repost the call, so those of you that joined a little bit later can see the call. And we will talk to you all again in another month. Cameron, thank you so much. Send me that PM. Really appreciate you joining. Terry, Patrick, all the Smart Things folks, Benji, everyone who joined, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If I missed you, I apologize, but we will see you again in another month. So see you later, everyone. Bye.